afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our healthy cooking class, plant-based, entitled Why Eat Plants? I'm Savannah Greer, and this is my mother, Vanessa Greer, and we are going to share with you today why we should eat plants. Before we get into things, we do want to say thank you for the Oakwood Latino Adventist Church for hosting this event. This program will be in English, pero tengo las recetas en español también, okay? So I hope you enjoy and learn a lot.
We're so glad you could join us today. This is part of a three-part series that will be conducted over the next 12 months. So our first program today is looking at why should we eat plants? This program is in partnership with the Oakwood Latino Adventist Church and the Fresno Central Seventh-day Adventist Church in Fresno, California. So today we're going to look at why would we want to eat plants? Now, I'm not trying to make you vegetarian. In fact, I just want you to have the very best diet to reach your own personal goals. And that's what we have to look at, is how we live and what would be best for ourselves. For myself, a whole plant-based, unprocessed food diet is a core of my foundation Monday through Friday, because we all have things that happen differently during our week that affect how we eat. The other factors can be, we can be traveling, we can get sick, we can be in another area. We could be in somebody else's home that maybe has limitations on the foods that you would normally be eating. And so we need to take that into consideration. What is very interesting, though, is worldwide, God has created a nut, a fruit, and a vegetable in every place in the world. Yes, and even in the North Pole. There are no worries about protein. There are plenty of proteins in plants in the world. There are some areas in the world that possibly there may need some supplementation for protein sources and calcium for children, pregnant women, and elderly. And that would have to do with the dairy and egg and fish sources that are available in that area. So today, we're going to talk about reasons to eat plant-based. And during this program, we will go through cancer prevention, improved mental health, healthy weight, environmental benefits, which support a more sustainable food system. Today we will present different meals which support healthy lifestyles, and we are advocating the use of the full plate meal planning as created by the Ardmore Institute of Health and supported by Loma Linda University. We will build our plate through the program and start with meal demos with each section. On your screen, you should see the full plate that we're going to be utilizing during this program. And it gives you a visual of how you would build your plate for your meals. So our first demonstration today is going to be a crispy chickpea tossed salad with a tahini sesame butter dressing.
Hello, everyone. So let's get started on our first recipe. And this recipe has several parts to it, so you'll have to stay with me. The first thing we're going to do is, this is a salad, but the salad has a crunchy little topping, which are some crispy chickpeas, and so that is what we are going to start with, okay? So first, you'll want a bowl ready to be able to put your chickpeas in. Now, you can make chickpeas from scratch, and they're really cost effective, or you can also buy them in a can, and that will allow you to do it a lot faster. So I've already opened this can, and I'm just going to dump it into the bowl. Let's going to take a second. And this recipe calls for 2 cans. So this second can I haven't opened yet. So I'm going to drain the liquid out because you don't want the liquid to interfere. So dumping the second can of chickpeas in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the seasoning in. Now for our seasonings, I have them here on this plate, and we have cumin. We have 1 teaspoon of ground cumin here, and we have 1 tablespoon of ground coriander here. And we also have 1 teaspoon of garlic powder and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So what we're going to do is then take that, mix it together, just so it's all there. And then what you do is you sprinkle it over the chickpeas in the bowl. And then you mix it. Okay, you mix, mix, mix. Also, you'll want to put 1 tablespoon of olive oil. So there's the olive oil. And we will mix that in. Mix it really well so that everything is covered. You want all of the garbanzos or the chickpeas to have seasoning on them. And once you have that, I'm going to grab our pan. And what you do is you put the chickpeas on a pan. I have it lined with parchment paper just so that it's less cleanup, but you can, if you have a non-stick pan, you can do that as well. So move this. Have our chickpeas, and what you want to do is you want to spread them out with as much space as you can. You don't want them to be stacked on top of each other, because what we're going to do is we're going to put this in the oven, and we have the oven preheated at 400 degrees, and we're going to put it in for 30 minutes. So these will get nice and toasty and crispy, and they will be ready for us to put on a salad at a certain point. And you can make these ahead of time. That's what's really great about this recipe, is you can make these ahead of time, put them in the fridge, and then add them to any of your salads or food. So right now I'm gonna put this in the oven, and we're gonna put it in for 30 minutes. And then we'll see that in a bit. Okay, next for the salad, we're going to also make the dressing, okay? Bring everything over. Now, you can use any type of dressing that you want on salads, but today I'm going to be making a tahini dressing that will go on the salad. It's something really quick and easy. Obviously, you can buy dressings in the store, and that's okay, but many times they have a lot of additives and preservatives and things that may interfere with nutrients, or they may not have as much fresh nutrients. So we like to make our own to be able to get the full benefit. And so in this bowl, I already have 1/2 cup of sesame tahini. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to it 1/4 cup of water. And I'm going to add also the juice of 2 lemons, which is basically more or less 6 tablespoons. So I'm going to add that in. And then I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of maple syrup. Ooh, that's a little bit more than one. That's okay. And I do want to note that this is pure maple syrup, so it isn't like what you would, not Mrs. Butterworth's, full of processed sugar. This is straight from the maple tree, so it's good for us. Next, we're going to add just 2 spices, just salt and garlic powder. We're just going to add those in. And then we're going to use our whisk. We're going to whisk it together until it's all combined. And then once we put on our salad, you'll see it all combined, but it's just that easy. It's just that easy to be able to whip together a dressing. So I'm collecting plates here, obviously. We're gonna scooch this over and gonna grab what we need for our salad, the rest of the salad. So here I have a bowl with just regular lettuce. And then I have some parsley. I have about, this is about 1/4 cup of parsley. And then here I have 1 roasted orange bell pepper. And this bell pepper, I roasted it myself. If you would like, you can put the bell pepper in with the chickpeas and it'll roast all at the same time. It's pretty easy. So then once that's done, you can cut up and put it in. I did it ahead of time because we don't have all the time in the world. So we have those 2 things. And I'm also gonna grab another green and then the chickpeas that I actually made ahead of time. So one moment. All right, so another way to add nutrients to your salads is you can buy easy packages of salad. This here is a tricolor cabbage mix, and so it has green cabbage, it has purple cabbage, it has carrots. So of course you can buy those cabbages and cut them yourself. You can cut carrots yourself, but if you don't have the time, you can just get one of these packages. It's fresh. All you have to do is tear it open, if I can tear it open, and then add it to your lettuce. Now you have 3 different types of greens in there. That might have been a little bit much. And then we're gonna dump in our parsley. We're gonna dump in our bell pepper. Ooh. And going to mix all of that together. That was a lot of cabbage. But we'll mix all that together. And once you have it more or less mixed, then you can take the dressing, which I need to whisk a little bit more. Almost there. Whisking it. And then you can just drizzle the dressing over and then stir that in. Obviously you can have the dressing on the side if you'd like, but what you do, you stir that in all the way through. Put the rest of these, and then have our chickpeas that were previously toasted already, and then sprinkle those on top. And there you go, if you can see that. You have a nice salad, and it came together rather quickly, but it is all natural. So that is our first recipe, and this is going to feed an army. So now I'm going to invite my mom back up here to talk about our next section of health, and we'll keep moving along. minor cleanup here. That's what happens with a live program. You gotta do everything live.
Well, thank you, Savannah, for doing that demonstration. And what's wonderful about that recipe, it has not only a protein source, but it has something called cruciferous vegetables in there. So this entire salad actually is what I call a cancer buster. It has carrots and 2 different kinds of cabbages with a very dark green lettuce. And these all help to promote good gut health and prevent cancer. So we're going to move on to talk about cancer prevention. And the numbers are astounding. Currently, at approximately 20,000 people in the United States under the age of 50 will come down with a GI cancer. But what's even more alarming is those in the age of 20, 30, and 40-year-olds will be diagnosed this year with a stage 3-4 colon cancer or rectal cancer. An estimated 3,750 young adults will die this year from a GI-related cancer. The trend has been about 2% increase since 1990 to 2000, and then has rapidly increased through 2020. These are young people in the prime of their life. They've got their careers are on their way up. They've got children, usually young children. They may be caring for a parent, and so the life is very full when this hits. This is reported by Dr. Kimmy Ning from the Young Onset Colorectal Cancer Center at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. It has become so pronounced over the last 10 years, there's actually a special clinic now created for those in the age group of 20 to 40 coming down with what we're calling early onset cancers. And that's cancers that have never been seen in this age group, and there is no family history. So this has become a question of what is causing this. Colorectal cancer is rapidly shifting to a younger age diagnosis, as the American Cancer Society has reported in the last month. This is the deadliest cancer in young adults. Statistically, there is an expected increase by 90% by the year 2030, and that was a quote from Dr. Kimmy Ning. Many families didn't take time to prepare meals as they raised their children. Everything was fast food, convenience foods, and grab-to-go foods. And that has occurred mostly over the last 20 years, that kids have grown up with that type of eating pattern. Further factors potentially involved are low vitamin D levels, deficiencies in other vitamins, and high red meat consumption, including the direction of obesity in this age group, 20 to 40 years old. A study published in 2021 found that females who consumed more than 2 sugary drinks per day had more than double the risk of early onset of colorectal cancer, and compared to women who drank less than 1 drink. And a study published this month suggests people who eat lots of fresh and minimally processed foods are less likely to develop colon cancer compared to people who consume lots of ultra-processed foods, including processed meats, sweets, bacon, carbonated soft drinks, and ready-to-eat meals. The Journal of American Medical Association did a cohort study of more than 500,000 patients, and they were younger than 50, and found that the majority of these cancers were all in the gastrointestinal system, which is from the esophagus all the way to the stomach, all the way through the colon, all the way down to the rectum, where elimination occurs. Ning and her colleagues agree early onset cancers are digestive system cancers, and many of these cancers are associated with obesity and have catapulted over the last 30 years. Some years ago, the World Health Organization International Agency for Research on Cancer classified processed meats as carcinogenic or cancer-causing. To humans, and red meat most likely identified as carcinogenic. The decision was based on 800 related studies by 22 experts in 10 countries with an interest in food security and the health of the public. The meat consumption was linked in two main sites, cancers of the colon and the rectum, which is the second leading cause of cancer death in the United States, just after lung cancer. With associated observed concerns, they also are looking at pancreatic cancers and prostate cancers that could be also affected by these dietary changes. The conclusion found is each 50-gram portion, or 1/3 of a cup, of processed meat eaten daily increases the risk of colorectal cancer by 18%. And just so you can kind of wrap your brain around that, this would be going to a sandwich restaurant and buying a sandwich that has like a sliced smoked turkey or sliced steak or pastrami. These are all processed meats. This information confirms the Adventist research into a plant-based diet from Loma Linda University. An analysis from Adventist Health Study 2, published in the Journal of Internal Medicine, indicated that vegetarian diet might reduce a person's risk of colorectal cancer by 22%. Researchers at Loma Linda University Health found that eating a plant-based diet offers significant protection against cancers of the colon and the rectum. The findings published online in the Journal of Internal Medicine from Adventist Study 2 investigation links the diets to specific forms of cancer. This scientific evidence seems to link red meat and processed meat to a higher risk of colorectal cancer. Conversely, a diet rich in fiber, not fiber supplements, is linked with lower risk of cancer. The lead researcher for Loma Linda University, Dr. Michael Orlick, reports vegans, lacto-ovo vegetarians, and pesco-vegetarians in our study had all avoided red and processed meat and ate an increased amount of variety of whole plant-based foods. So Savannah's going to come back and she's going to do a meal demo. Remember, we're building that plate, that full plate. You're going to see this full plate of food, and it's going to be so much food you're going to be stuffed. But these are the foods that we want to eat through the day. So she's going to be demonstrating tofu mayonnaise, which can be used as a sour cream, which as condiments also are a source of high fat content and salt content, and 3 different types of wraps we will demonstrate over the presentation.
So we're going to make a wrap, and you can do it 3 different ways. But before we talk about those 3 different ways, we need to talk about what goes in the wrap. So what we have for the wrap is we're going to use a whole wheat tortilla. So any whole wheat tortilla you have from the store, or if you make your own, that's even better. And so that is what you use as the base for the wrap. And then next you want to use a protein of choice. And so today we're going to talk about 3 different proteins at different points in the lecture, and we'll discuss how that is going to work. Then you want to put some veggies. We're going to use lettuce and tomatoes and avocado. And then you want to put some sort of sauce, something so that it's not so dry. And that is what we're going to make first, is a sauce. We're going to make sounds kind of funny. It's a tofu mayo or tofu sour cream, but it's a good base. And you'll see once we make it, it can be used for a number of things. What I like to do is I like to make a ranch seasoning base, which I actually will include in the recipes that we'll be posting. And I like to add the ranch powder to the tofu sauce and then put that on things. So that's an option you have, but we're just going to make the plain base tofu mayo so that you can add to it whatever you would like. And so the way we do that is we start off, I'm going to be using the Vitamix, and this is what I have access to, and if you have access to it, it's a great blender, but if you don't, you can use other blenders as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by taking my tofu. Now, I use this specific type of tofu. It's a brand, it's called silken tofu, and it's a lot softer than regular tofu. And so I particularly like the silken tofu, and I always buy this brand Morinu because it doesn't have as much of a like soy flavor. And so I appreciate that. It's possible to do it with regular tofu, but I much prefer to use the silken tofu. And this can be purchased at a lot of supermarkets. I think I got this specifically at Sprouts. They probably have it also at probably a lot of other places, but not every supermarket. You can also sometimes get them if you have like a local like Asian or Chinese market. Many times they'll have silken tofu. It's pretty common in like Korean culture to have silken tofu. So there's a variety of places that you can find it. But we're gonna start by dumping it into the blender. Get all that in there. And then we're going to put in 3 teaspoons of lemon juice. And let me get a spatula. We're gonna put 3 tablespoons of olive oil in. Put that. And then here we have it's not a lot of seasoning necessarily, but we have salt and then also something called citric acid. Now I know that sounds very intimidating and like a very odd condiment. You're not gonna be able to see it very well on this plate probably, but it kind of looks like just white salt. And it's very concentrated citric flavor, and so it helps cut some of that soy flavor that you might typically have. So that can go in there, and then all we do is we blend it up. Now there's not a specific amount of time for you to blend it. It's just kind of however your blender works, whatever, until it gets smooth. And so it should look smooth like this when you are basically done. And so I'm gonna put it in this container. You can see how it comes out. It looks like a sour cream or even a mayonnaise, and it can be used as either. I prefer to use it more like where you would use sour cream. And the benefit of this is that it's made of tofu. So since it's made of tofu, it's got a lot of protein, and it's got healthy fats from the olive oil, and all of these things can combine to make something very nutrient dense when added to your wrap. Okay, so that is our tofu mayo. And now we are going to make our first protein for the wrap. It's gonna be 1 second. So this protein we're going to work on is a plant-based chicken option from the supermarket, and you can get whichever one you like. There's so many different brands. This is the brand that my mom prefers. I have another brand that I prefer, but this is something that can easily be bought from the supermarket, and I am going to pan saute, so I'm going to turn the pan on. Put it on to about medium. Check those chickpeas. So what I'm gonna do is just open up this package, dump it into a bowl. And now I know that using fake meat can be intimidating for some people because it's not meat. What do you do with it, right? I like to say you just use it how you would season it how you would season meat. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this, I'll show you a piece of it. This is what it looks like. Pretty pretty chicken-like. I'm gonna dump it into this bowl. And then I have some seasonings here. So this seasoning blend that I have specifically is 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1/2 teaspoon of dried oregano, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder, and and then I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of oil as well, just to fry it up. Let me get another spoon. And I'm gonna mix those seasonings up, and I may not use all of this for this chicken. It's kind of a lot, but again, for those of you who do regularly eat meat and you're really good at seasoning meat, take what you know about seasoning meat and you can apply it to these substitutes, and you can make it taste great. So take those seasonings and just sprinkle it over. And I'm not doing it, this is more like a dry rub rather than a marinade, but if you wanted to also do a marinade, you could do something like that too. So I'm just covering it and going to pull out the oil that I did not have ahead of time. So you can just use around like 1 teaspoon of oil. I'm eyeballing it. Stir that in, and then make sure it's covered, and then it just looks like that. So it kind of looks like regularly seasoned chicken. I'm just going to pan saute it. So leave that there for a moment. Now, the thing about meat substitute is that since it's not real meat, the cook time is going to be a lot quicker. You don't have to worry about salmonella or anything like that. So cooking is basically the amount of time or up into the texture that you like. So technically, once this is warm, I could put that in my wrap right away if I wanted to, but if you want it to be a little bit more crispy, you could cook it for a little bit longer. It's up to you. So let me scoot this out of the way. What I'm gonna do is start getting ready for the wrap, because that chicken will be done in a moment, and then we'll have all of our pieces for the wrap. So the way that we're gonna do a wrap, we're gonna do it a little bit differently than is typical. A typical wrap, you might make it sort of like a burrito or something like that. But today we're going to do it a little bit differently. Let me grab a knife. And what we're going to do is we're going to make one slit in this tortilla, kind of show you just one slit, not all the way through, but kind of towards the middle. And what we'll do is we'll take some of our tofu mayo or sour cream, whatever you want to call it. You can make up a new name for it too if you don't like calling it tofu. And then we're going to put this here, put that there, however much you like to put. And then we're going to cut open this avocado. I should probably stir this chicken. You can see how this all kind of can come together simultaneously. It's a great avocado. So put my avocado slices here. And then I'm gonna grab some tomato and lettuce. So put my lettuce here on top of my avocado. Obviously the order that you do this in, you can do it however you want. I'm also going to put my slice of tomato there. And then all that's left is the chicken. So, like I said, it's up to you how long you cook it. And for the sake of the video, I'm going to just use a piece of it right now to show you. But of course you can cook it a little bit longer if you want it to be crispy, okay? So let me get a piece or two of this, put this in there. Maybe we'll put one more, let's see. Sometimes I overstuff things, so we'll see how it goes. And then what you do is you take the first flap, fold it over, take this flap, fold it over, take this flap, and now you have a nice little wrap that you can use as an entree, and it has your protein, it has your vegetables, and it has this tofu, which is even more protein. And so then you can put that on a plate, and that's it. So now I'm gonna invite my mom back up here to give you some more details on health. Should we clean this up a bit?
I want to just show you how pretty that is. You know, we like our food to look good, and some of the vegetarian packaged foods that are at the supermarket, if you open that package, they just have such terrible color. They've been overcooked. And so it's really good to learn how to eat very healthy, quick meals like this, because you can do this on your own, right? Everybody can do this. And you can just wrap it up and you can run out of the house with it. So let's transition back to our lecture. We're now going to talk about mental health and mood. And especially post-COVID pandemic, we have had an increase in people with depression and anxiety. The isolation is turning into one of the risk factors for cardiac unhealthiness. And so we want to look at how does diet have a place in that. We know a lot of people in their isolation were cooking better, but we know a lot of people were not eating well or had shortages of food during the time that they were in isolation. So observationally for myself, I have been working in healthcare. I've been an RN over 4 decades. I've been a nurse practitioner for 28 years. And I've provided healthcare to those in many settings in the hospital, from the ER to ICU, to homeless outreach, street medicine, home-based primary care. And currently I work for the National Center for Pain Management with the Fresno VA. And all these factors, all these people in the same, it doesn't matter where they're at within the continuum of the healthcare, they all have deficiencies within their diet. And when I see a patient for the first time, one of the first things I do is I make sure that I order lab for vitamin D, thiamine, folate, magnesium, and B12, because I'm finding alarming deficiencies in this area. And what's interesting is once I put them on supplement, or I'll work closely with the primary care provider to have them put on their supplements, and I see them like 8 weeks later, it's really wonderful to see that their mood has increased. They come in to see me, they're very heavy, they're having pain. And once we improve their nutrition with vitamins at least, that has helped. So I can't even imagine what would really help is if we could get a nutritional diet change for them. Usually, the deficiency, the number one is that vitamin D. I'm seeing very low levels of vitamin D. People have been inside, they're not getting the natural vitamin D from the sun. And the word methylation is important to understanding mood and in depression. And this is a critical biologic process which creates neurotransmitters which support the immune system, DNA maintenance, energy, and detoxification in our body. Undermethylation leads to low levels of serotonin, which can cause depression. Serotonin is what makes us feel joyful, it makes us feel happy every day. And that is that is created in our body, in our brains. Undermethylation leads to low levels of serotonin and depression. Overmethylation can happen also, and that can lead to high levels of serotonin, causing difficulties with motivation, weight gain, sexual drive, and confusion. This is the issue with antidepressants called SSRIs. So that would be like Prozac, Zoloft, citalopram, Lexapro, Paxil. These medications, after a month that people are on them, they feel great. They have this really well-being, feeling is improved, and they feel that they have better relationships. But over a longer period of time, that medication dose needs to be increased, because that is not a natural way to get serotonin. This is where plant-based diets come in, providing the diet with a natural production of serotonin in the brain through good nutrition. We don't want anybody stopping their antidepressants, and I would not recommend that without seeing a doctor and discussing this with them. But we often have people on antidepressants with good nutrition. The two together make a very whole person mentally. I see adding plant-based diets to depressives with anxiety, and it's actually reduced the doses that they have. And so we want to look closely at medication dosing and adding nutrients to their diet. Tryptophan is considered a large amino acid, and this helps us sleep. It increases serotonin in the brain to reduce depression and anxiety. But what's interesting is high protein animal protein and low carbohydrate diets reduce tryptophan and also prevent the body's insulin from supporting the movement of tryptophan across the blood-brain barrier where it needs to be. Healthy plant-based foods such as whole wheat, edamame, and beans are high in tryptophan, which help produce serotonin in the brain. Less than 4% of the population are actually gluten intolerant, and we have a lot of people that say they're gluten intolerant nowadays and have either reduced or removed wheat-based products out of their diet. And this is affecting how people perceive their well-being and their mood during the day. Many people over-restrict their diets, thinking that they do have a gluten allergy when they may not have been fully tested. Plant-based foods support more tryptophan across the blood-brain barrier, and it requires this large neutral amino acid to move it with the use of insulin mediators to support movement into the tryptophan into the brain. Low carbohydrate diets is not what we want, and a lot of people are on high protein diets with low carbohydrates, and they may be losing a lot of weight with that, but in the end they need not processed carbohydrates, but they need high quality carbohydrates to help them move the tryptophan where it needs to be to help them with their sleep. Good foods to help with transport of tryptophan would be pumpkin seeds, tofu, almonds, sesame seeds, and the outside sunlight through the eyes. We want to get sunlight not from a window, but through going outside. Or you can use a light box. Those are available too, that they can be purchased, particularly in areas in the northeast and the northwest where we have lengthy periods of cloudiness, rainy days during the winter months. So the wrap that Savannah showed us, this actually has some of what we just talked about in it. And so even within one serving, you've already gotten some of the elements that we are talking about are necessary for a good mood, to reduce depression, anxiety, and improve your sleep. The Medical Journal of Psychiatric Lancet from Europe reports studies which have identified the role of nutrition and supplementation as part of the mainstream medicine, and the evidence is overwhelming for a rich diet in plant-based foods for people with mental health disorders and for the general public. So now we're going to move to another food demonstration, and Savannah's going to be demonstrating an oat walnut patty wrap using tofu mayonnaise and also a macaroni and cheese. You want to move any of that?
The mac and cheese. Here, take this.
a transition right now.
Okay, so some of you may not want to buy veggie meat or meat substitutes from the supermarket for a couple of reasons. Sometimes it can get a little bit expensive. Sometimes maybe you don't like the processing or the preservatives within those veggie meats. And so right now I'm going to make an alternative to that, something that you could add to your wrap instead of the vegetarian chicken. And so what that is going to be is an oat patty, okay? So I'm going to start off here. I have a bowl with 4 cups of oats. I have 4 cups of oats, rolled oats. You can also use quick oats. That's also an option. But what you do is you have these oats, and you want to add several ingredients to them. We have walnuts and sunflower seeds to add, but we need them to be broken up a little bit more. So I'm going to put them in this food processor very quickly so that we can make those a bit smaller. Put that in, and then just quicker than anything, all blended up. So you won't necessarily notice it too much in the patties, but your body will notice the nutrition that you have just added in. Oh, it's falling apart here. So dumping all that in. Now the next ingredient, we're doing all of our dry ingredients first. That was, I'll be more specific. That was half a cup of walnuts and half a cup of sunflower seeds. Now the next ingredient we're going to add is flax meal. So this is flax meal. You may be used to seeing it as flax seeds. So this is the seed and this is the meal, okay? This is after it's blended up, and you might ask yourself, how do I blend this up? We're not going to add this because this can be sometimes difficult for some people to digest. So when it's blended up, it releases all the nutrients. So we're going to add that, but I do want to show you how easy it is. You can buy it already blended up, or you can blend it up yourself. I have these seeds here. You can just use a coffee grinder or a spice grinder and easily put your seeds in. Close it, need to plug it in, and then you just do some blending. And before you know it, you have the flax meal. So it's very quick, it's very easy, and so that is something that you can add to a lot of foods. Now the next thing that we're going to add is nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast may look like the flax, and something to note about the flaxseed. Oftentimes you will see flaxseed is brown. The flaxseed that I just showed you is called golden flaxseed, so it's more yellow, but typically it is more brown. So if you see the same looking seed and it's brown, that is flaxseed, and that is okay. This is nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is always yellow, and nutritional yeast is great for many things. We're going to dump that in. Next, that was specifically how much? That was 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. And now we're going to put in the spices. So what I have here is 2 teaspoons of dried basil and 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, okay? So I'm going to dump that in. So now that we have all that in, see that in there, going to stir it all together. Stir all the dry things together and make sure all the seasoning is around. Put all that in, and then I'll explain the next step. So right here we have soy sauce. There's a couple options here. So you can use soy sauce, but what I like to often use is Bragg's liquid aminos. And while I'm talking about this, I want to let you know I'm boiling some water. So we're going to put 4, and you might hear it. I'm going to put, this is 4 cups of oats, and I'm going to put 4 cups of boiling water into the bowl. Once it's boiled, that'll be done real quickly. But this is soy sauce, and it is specifically 1/3 cup of soy sauce, but you can also use Bragg's liquid aminos. And Bragg's liquid aminos has less sodium, and it is another healthy option. The next ingredient we're gonna add is 3/4 cup of onion, so I'll get that right now from the fridge. So we'll dump that in. We can start dump in the onions. We can mix that in. Now, once the water is boiled, what we're going to do is I'm going to take the water and I'm going to take the soy sauce and I'm going to kind of dump them in at the same time, and then I'm going to stir it really well. And what happens is this bowl gets set aside for 20 minutes, and it just sits for 20 minutes until the oats kind of soak up the liquid, and it's something that you can work with. I do have some patties already done so you can see what they look like, but basically what you do is once it's done sitting for 20 minutes, you can take a scoop and form it into little patties, and you put it on a tray and you bake it. Specifically, you're going to want to bake it for around 45 minutes, and that should suffice. Okay, I think our water is mostly boiled, so just give it one more minute, and then we'll get there. And while we're waiting for that to boil, I'm going to move this and bring some of the other items back on. So now I have my boiled water, putting the water in at the same time as the soy sauce. Ooh. Set that aside. And then stirring it all together to make sure that it's combined well, all the soy sauce and the water. And so this is kind of what you have. It looks soupy right now, but after sitting for 20 minutes, it's going to be a lot more put together, okay? So I'm just gonna set this aside for 20 minutes and move it over here. And this is what they look like when they're done. So what you would do is, after it's sat, and maybe if we have time, I'll bring it back over, but it does get thicker, and then you can form it into the patty. Like I said, you bake it, and this is what you get. So you can take these patties, you could cut it and put it in your wrap, but you could also eat it as like a burger if you wanted to. So there's lots of options with this, but this is a more pure food replacement for meat. It has oats, it has nuts. All of these things come together to provide lots of protein and fiber to help things move through your body, and so it's very, very helpful. Rather than things getting stuck in your body, it helps move them through. So this is what the patties look like when they're done. All right, so now the next thing that we're going to make is we're going to make a vegan macaroni and cheese, okay? So we're gonna come back to our trusty blender. This is something that comes together pretty quickly. So let me just get the blender set up, and then we'll get moving. Okay. Scoop this. So this vegan mac and cheese is something that's pretty simple to do. It comes together in a blender, and it's more of a sauce. You put it with the pasta. Now I have a couple macaroni and cheese recipes. This is the one that's made of whole foods, 100% healthy for you. We have cashews, we have bell peppers. We use a lot of things that our bodies love. There's a couple other vegan macaroni and cheese recipes out there that are also delicious that use a little bit more processed foods. If you want that recipe, you can ask me. But today we're gonna do something that is my go-to because I do like eating the most nutrient-dense foods as possible, and of course things that taste good. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 1 cup of raw cashews. The goal is to have raw cashews, but sometimes you can't find them, and it's not the end of the world if you can't find them. You could just kind of soak them in hot water, and that'll help soften them. But yeah, 1 cup of raw cashews, and then you take 2 cups of water. And then this is half of a bell pepper. Now you can also use, there's little jars that have what's called pimientos, and it's actually just jarred red bell pepper, so you can do it either way. You can buy the jar of already cut bell pepper, you could buy roasted bell pepper, or you can just get a raw bell pepper and use that as well. So there's a lot of options, right? So you just dump that in. Then we have our seasonings, okay? So we have salt, we have garlic powder, we have onion powder, and the star of the show, nutritional yeast. So you saw me use nutritional yeast with the burgers. There will be at least one more recipe where I use it. I am a huge fan of nutritional yeast. It's something that adds nutrients. It even has some of its own protein as well, and it adds a really good flavor. So you dump all of that in. Let's see, get all that to go in there. And then get our lid. Put the lid on. Then we get this to, it's gonna blend for a few minutes, so bear with us. Okay, again, this one doesn't have a timer on it. You just kind of go until it's smooth, and that's going to be a different amount of time depending on what type of blender that you have. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to take this sauce. As you can see, it's kind of liquidy, and we're going to put it into a pot. And what we're going to do then is take the pot, put it on the stove, and I need a spoon for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to have it on the stove, and we're going to stir it. Obviously I'm not stirring now, but we're going to be stirring it, and it's going to get thick like a sauce. So you just sit there and stir it until it gets kind of thick, and then once that happens, then you put it on your pasta. Like, obviously this can be, it's supposed to be macaroni and cheese. I just bought penne pasta because that is what I found. This specifically is a whole wheat penne pasta, and I'm going to have my mom come back up and talk more about some of the health benefits while I finish stirring the cheese and adding it to the pasta.
That was a great introduction to nutritional yeast, or brewer's yeast it's called. And one thing about this is it actually is fortified with B vitamins. So it's an important essential component for those that are eating vegetarian diets. It's made from blackstrap molasses and beet sugars and fortified with B vitamins. But it is a lovely way to add a seasoning. It has slight salty flavor to it, and it can be used for all sorts of sauces. Now, the other thing about these whole wheat pastas, and you want to look at that, and I'm going to grab the box. This is actually on the side of all packaging, you have your nutritional facts on the side. And so we're going to be going down to the dietary fiber. And we want to have foods that have more than 4 grams of dietary fiber. And this actually has, for one serving, it's a 2-ounce serving, it has 7 grams of fiber. That is huge. That is a lot of fiber for one, because nobody eats just 2 ounces of macaroni and cheese. So you're getting a good fiber boost from this box, from the pen pasta coming from this box. So this is like a pretty good brand, and I was impressed by the amount of fiber in this product. The other thing is the sauce that Savannah is making also can be used with rice. So you can make like a cheesy rice, and there's bagged rices now. It's just, I wish I had this when my kids were little, because it would have saved a lot of prep time. But this is a Seeds of Change. It's organic quinoa, brown and red rice with flaxseed. And this has dietary fiber is 3 grams. Actually, it's 5 grams per serving in this pouch. So this is another good option. And we're going to be talking about healthy weight next, right? Okay. I'm gonna move this. So we all want to have healthy weight, and I say healthy weight because I don't want to use the word weight loss, because then everybody's like, I don't want to go on a diet. But that's not really what we're presenting today. It's what is the best weight and health for you. The Center for Disease Control reports that there's been a prevalence of obesity increasing by 41% between 2017 and 2020, which is just even increased post-COVID, with severe obesity increasing by 4.7 to 9.2%. So to give you an idea of what this is, there's something called a body mass index. There's been some recent research saying that that may not be a good calculator for healthy weight, but I believe it's what we still have and what we use. You can go to any of the BMI calculator apps on your phone, and you can calculate your own body mass index. This puts together your weight and your height, and it calculates a number that tells you whether you're overweight and whether what your risk of a heart attack and stroke is. So what we like to do is see people staying under a body mass index of 32, and that keeps the diabetes away and stroke and heart attack. As you start tipping over into the 32 to 40 range, that becomes severe obesity. And that is a weight that is very unhealthy. So we're talking about 100-pound weight over your normal weight that you should have. And a lot of people, they may say, oh, I've got big bones, I can carry a lot more weight. And that's really not the fact. We have a certain skeletal structure that can only hold so much weight. And the more weight you have, the more weight it puts on all your large joints, your shoulders, your spine, your pelvis, your knees, your ankles. Conversely, obesity-related conditions such as heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and colon cancers are all preventable causes of premature death and disability. More striking is the estimated medical costs of obesity in the United States, nearly $173 billion in 2019. Medical costs for those with obesity were $1,861 higher than those without obesity. Researchers have found that obesity leads to inflammation in the body, which promotes early onsets of cancers. And it was interesting it was about 15 years ago or longer when we had the avian flu that came out. And the Centers for Disease Control some years later did a study from some of the data from the Fresno County area, because we had a fair number of young people in their 30s that died. And they found that all of those that died with this type of flu were overweight. And this has also been proven during the COVID pandemic, that those who were overweight were at higher risk for death when getting the virus. Those who eat plant-based diets have lower body mass index, which affects weight loss. Based on the available evidence, plant-based diets should be considered a viable option for those in need of weight loss for chronic disease prevention and health. So how do we eat a plant-based diet and get enough protein, though? Because people are always asking, well, it doesn't sound like you can get enough protein. Proteins are essential to the human body to build muscle, tissue, and a source of energy. Proteins are made up of chains of amino acids which break down during digestion and are absorbed in the bloodstream. Protein can then be used to grow the body, repair body tissues, create antibodies to fight infections, and produce enzymes to break down food in our gut. There are 20 amino acids, and 9 of which are essential because the body receives them from the food we eat. So that means that there are people deficient of these amino acids walking around out there because they're nutrition deficient in their diet. Although animal proteins are considered more complete because they contain all the essential amino acids, vegetarians and total vegetarians are readily able to get enough essential amino acids by eating a variety of plant-based proteins. Plant sources of dietary protein are easily able to supply the nutritional needs of growing children, those who are physically active, and those that are elderly. The key is to eat a variety of plant proteins each day. They do not have to be eaten all together. You actually, as long as you're eating them all in the same day, during the week, they don't have to be eaten on the same plate. But as you've seen already in some of the food demonstrations, automatically, just by combining these foods, you're already eating the combined proteins together. And you don't, without even trying, you're getting what you need. Plant-based proteins include beans, peas, frozen peas, not canned peas, lentils or legumes, all sorts of other types of beans, processed soy grain products, meat alternatives, nuts, seeds, and for those that are in areas that they are short on some of these types of protein, eggs and milk. A healthful diet should limit high-fat and salty protein dishes such as highly seasoned entrees, meat alternatives, and deep-fried foods. And I have to kind of chuckle because we went to a vegetarian restaurant here when I arrived this past week, and everything was super good, but everything was super seasoned. There was like a chimichurri sauce that was like so spicy, and everything that I really liked was fried. So, you know, there are exceptions, but that just can't be part of our regular diet, because even we can take vegetables and we can kind of ruin them by what we do to them. Let's look at some vegetarian. I was just talking about that. Teenage boys 14 to 18 years old required 6.5 ounces of protein per day. Girls in the same age group required 5 ounce equivalents per day. An ounce equivalent of protein may be obtained in a quarter cup of cooked beans, a teaspoon of peanut butter, a half ounce of nuts or seeds, or 1 egg. Adult males require 56 grams and adult females 46 grams. Worldwide, most people live on 28 grams of protein. A complete protein is created when a bean and a grain are together. A bean and a seed are together. A bean and a nut are together. These are complete proteins created. Plant-based complete proteins are tofu, totally complete. You don't need to add anything to it, although you need to flavor it. Edamame, which is a soybean, is the bean itself. Tempeh, which is another different type of process they use with soybeans, is a little drier. soy milk. And grains have substantial protein, fiber, iron, B12, calcium, and magnesium, and amino acids to regulate blood sugar, reduce cholesterol, and improve acid-base balance in the stomach. And we already know magnesium particularly, if you look at some of the sleep aids that you can buy in the store, it has magnesium in it. And magnesium is known to help with sleep. And so as we eat these foods that have more magnesium, it's going to help us rest well at night. It also helps regulate blood sugar, reduce cholesterol, improve acid-base balance in the stomach. So let's just go through a few of these grains and seed proteins so you can just kind of see how many. We already talked about men need 56 grams, women need 46 grams, okay? So just start calculating and think about some of the foods that we've already started demonstrating. So quinoa, which is a grain, and it's like a fluffy rice. You make it the same way as rice. 1 cup has 8 grams of protein, okay? Hemp seed, which is in fact, we have, you wanna grab that for me? Okay, this is hemp seed. Hemp seed, 2 to 3 tablespoons has 11 grams of protein. Chia seed, you wanna grab the chia seed? This is white chia seed. Chia seed, 2 to 3 tablespoons, has 4 grams of protein, but it also includes omega-3 fatty acids, which is protective for our heart. Walnuts, I'm gonna grab walnuts. These are pieces, walnut pieces, 18 grams. And they also include, this is the highest amount of amino acids in a plant, other than fish, because the regular media will push fish for your amino acids, but walnuts and chia seed have amino acids. Almonds, 6 grams of protein, and also complex carbohydrates, which is essential for energy. So keep a little bag of almonds in your car, so if you run out of time and didn't get to eat, you just need that little bit of energy with some almonds. Amaranth, which is another grain, 1 cup has 28 grams of protein. That's like half of your protein for the day. So that's a grain. And then let's look at protein and fiber for beans. So this is 1 cup of beans, which is, it's a good serving size, a cup of beans. Chickpeas, the fiber content is 15.6 grams. The protein is 17.9 grams. So fiber-wise is kind of the same equivalent as protein. It's essentially 36 for women and 46 for men. Peas, frozen, a whole cup, not frozen, but thawed out frozen. 8.8 grams of fiber and 8.58 grams of protein. Kidney beans, 13.1 grams of fiber, 15.3 grams of protein. Black beans, 15 grams of fiber, 15.2 grams of protein. And soybeans, 10.3 grams of fiber, 31 grams of protein. Very high. Pinto beans, 15.4 grams of fiber, 15.4 grams of protein. Navy beans, those are the white beans, 19.1 grams of fiber, 15 grams of protein. Peanuts, 6.2 grams of fiber, 18.9 grams of protein. Now with peanuts, if you're trying to lose weight, that wouldn't be your preference for protein because it's got high calories. Quarter cup is 414 calories. In the August 1, 2016 issue of the Journal of American Medical Association Internal Medicine report, they reported a high intake of proteins from animal sources, especially processed and unprocessed red meats, was associated with an increased mortality rate. An increased intake of protein from plant sources was associated with lower death rate. The conclusion of the researchers is that people should eat more plant proteins than animal proteins, and if animal proteins are consumed, red meat should be avoided at all costs. Additionally, dairy should be used sparingly. So we're going to move on to our next meal demonstration, and we're going to use another recipe for those wraps. And Savannah's going to show us a marinated tofu and a lentil soup.
All right, so before I get into the tofu, I want to show you the update of the cheese sauce. So I was stirring, see if you guys can see this. I was stirring this. If you remember how liquidy it looked before, now it is a lot more saucy. So all you do to finish off this mac and cheese is you just simply pour the sauce over and mix it in with your pasta. Just regular, like you would any other. If you like baked mac and cheese, you could also like crumble some breadcrumbs over it and put it in the oven for a little bit. That's also an option, but nonetheless, there you have your mac and cheese. I know it's not elbows, but it is penne. So it's pasta with the cheese sauce. And I will say another trick with this sauce, it's not just for mac and cheese. I like to use it also kind of as a nacho sauce. You can put it over chips, you can put it on all sorts of things. You can put it inside burritos, you can put it on a lot of things. If you want to add a little bit of spice to it, you can put some like canned jalapenos, or even just the juice from that gives it a good flavor as well. Okay, so let's jump into actually, before I jump into the tofu, I do want to show the update of the chickpeas. You probably saw me take them out earlier, so they're nice and crispy. I don't know if you can hear that crisp on the microphone, but they're very crispy and delicious. So, more chickpeas for your salads or whatever. Okay, now for the tofu. Okay. So earlier I was talking about the silken tofu, and now we're going to use it's already open. It's already opened. Thank you for opening it. But this is the typical tofu that you can get at any supermarket, even Walmart. You can get this at Walmart. Yes, paper towel would be great. So something about using this tofu, as you can see, there is liquid in there. And it's nice to kind of pat the liquid out. You can use paper towels. Some people, what they'll do is they'll put the tofu on a plate. They'll put towels, and then they'll put another plate with something very heavy to squish the liquid out. This is it's not mandatory. You don't have to squish the liquid out. It is good to do it because it helps it absorb the flavor. But when you're in a hurry, you may not want to wait. I often don't wait. So what we're going to do is we're going to slice these tofu pieces thin. But actually, I should probably make the marinade first. Well, we'll slice those in a minute. These tofu slices are going to be marinated, and Mom, can you actually put those chickpeas in a jar or a bowl? A bowl also works. Okay, so we're gonna make the marinade for this tofu. As my mom said, tofu is a complete protein, but you do need to flavor it. And I'm gonna go back to what I said about the veggie meat. If you know how to flavor regular meat, you can use those techniques to flavor tofu. So that's something we're gonna do. Today we're making specifically a balsamic marinade for the tofu. Of course, you can make any marinade that you want, but today we're doing a balsamic. So what I have here is I have, let's see, how much oil do I have? I have 1 tablespoon of oil in this bowl, and I'm going to add to it 3 tablespoons of balsamic. think that's this one. They look very similar, don't they? Okay, so 3 tablespoons of balsamic, and then 2 tablespoons of more of that maple syrup, that pure maple syrup that we, that was not the maple syrup, actually. This is the maple syrup. Maple syrup. That was soy sauce. So let's review. So there were 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar and 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. Now we're gonna add in 2 tablespoons of the maple syrup. I thought that was kind of a little too dark for what I was trying to do. So use this handy brush to get that out. So we're gonna put that there. So those are all of our liquids for the marinades. Just kind of like swoosh that around a little bit. And then we have the seasonings. So surprise, surprise, more nutritional yeast. And then I have thyme and oregano, and the last one is coriander. So half a teaspoon of coriander, half a teaspoon of oregano, half a teaspoon of dried thyme, and then actually a whole tablespoon of nutritional yeast. And I'm going to dump all of that into the marinade, just like that. Try not to lose too much of it. And then I'm going to stir that. Stir that up until it's all combined. Okay, that's sufficient. And now I will cut the tofu slices. So as you can see here, this is a pretty thin slice. That means it'll cook at a certain speed. Now, you can cut your tofu in squares, in slices. Nowadays, some people actually even shred it, kind of like if it was like a shredded meat. They use like a cheese grater. Today we're doing slices, but feel free to get creative. Just note that the shape of the tofu, the thickness of it is going to affect the cooking time. So I'm not going to, well, yeah, I'll just cut all the slices. Oh, I ripped that one. So if you cut it too thin, then it rips really easily. So just, be careful. So that one was a lost cause, but we'll keep moving. Actually, we'll just go with this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is typically, you can use foil on your pan, or you can use parchment paper like I used earlier. But what you do is you just lay the tofu out. Just lay the tofu slices out on the pan. So again, whatever you have. If you have parchment paper, if you have foil, if you have just a non-stick pan, that can work. Okay, so then what you do next is you just take your marinade and you brush it on to your tofu. Now, of course, alternatively, you could soak it. You could soak it in the marinade for like an hour or so before. That's another option. But this recipe also just works like this as well. So what you do is you put it on there. And then we are going to put it in the oven, and it's going to bake for about 8 to 10 minutes on one side, and then what you do is you flip it over, put more marinade, and bake it for 8 to 10 more minutes. And of course, it's going to depend on your oven. It's going to be give or take 8 to 10 minutes. And then, so let me put that in right now. And then the result is something similar to this. Mine's a little bit extra crispy, but this is kind of how it comes out. And this is, again, something that you can put in your wrap. You can put it in a sandwich. You can put it in a burrito. You can put it over a salad. Like, there's so many things you can do with this. It's very versatile, and I'll be honest, oftentimes I don't feel like preheating the oven. I don't feel like putting it in the oven, so what I'll do is I'll put it in the air fryer. You can put it in the air fryer for 10 to 15 minutes and it'll be fully taken care of. So lots of options. Tofu is very versatile, and you can make it taste how you want it to taste, okay? So that is the tofu. Let me smooth some of this over so that we can do the lentil soup. Well, actually the lentil soup goes in there, but that's cheese.
Why don't I see?
Yeah. We'll do the lentil soup in a minute. We're gonna go back to speaking.
The chia pudding still. We want to stay on time because we start a little bit late, but we don't want to miss some of the information to present. So in closing, we're going to look at environmental benefits of plant-based diet, but I also want to talk about fiber a little bit too, because the two kind of go hand in hand. Fiber is one of the main reasons the whole plant foods are good for you, and they provide adequate benefit for digestion. So the things that do not have fiber come from an animal or anything that has a heartbeat. Because people often ask me, well, can you eat turkey? Can you eat fish? Well, they all have a heartbeat. So anything that has a heartbeat does not have fiber. And I think people are kind of surprised to hear that. It is a protein, and it's from flesh. So it's like our muscles. It's their muscle, and that's what's been cooked. And so it needs fiber to push it through your system. So actually, meat products can sit in your stomach for up to 36 hours, waiting for a fiber to push it through. Plant fibers are renewable and biodegradable, making them an eco-friendly choice for meals. Fiber supports healthy cholesterol levels and overall health. Plant fibers are also used to make breathable, lightweight, and soft, comfortable wearing clothes and other items. Many plant fibers, such as hemp and linen, are strong and durable, making them suitable for everyday clothing wear also. Fiber is a type of carbohydrate that is not digested, and that's the other confusion some people have, is that, well, why isn't it breaking up? Well, because it binds to whatever's in your stomach and your colon, and it helps to pull and eliminate it out. Though most carbohydrates are broken down in sugar molecules, which are called glucose, fiber cannot be broken down into sugar molecules, and instead it passes through the body undigested. Fiber is important to regulation of your blood sugar, and it helps keep hunger and blood sugar levels normal for energy. So it's kind of the difference between eating an apple and a regular piece of apple pie that has sugar in it. The apple has fiber in it with natural sugar, so your blood sugar goes up like this, very nicely. But if you eat a piece of apple pie with regular refined sugar, your blood sugar is going to spike and then come down, and that is not natural. We want a slow rise of our blood sugar and coming down. Children and adults need at least 25 to 35 grams of fiber each day for good health, but most Americans only get 15 grams of fiber, and that's very evident. Just, if you're at the supermarket and you look at what people are buying, you can tell. If you look at what kids are eating, they're chips, Cheetos, all sorts of sodas. As we have reviewed, great sources are whole grains, whole fruits and vegetables, legumes, and nuts. Soluble fiber, which dissolves in water, can help lower glucose levels as well as help lower blood cholesterol. So the soluble fiber is in oatmeal, for instance. The hot cereals, grains, whole grains that are eaten as a hot cereal or even cold, that grabs on cholesterol and is eliminated in your bowel movement every day. It also grabs onto fat, and it helps with weight loss. It helps, foods with soluble fiber include oatmeal, chia seed, nuts, beans, lentils, apples, and blueberries, all sorts of berries. Insoluble fiber, which does not dissolve in water, can help food move through your digestive system, promoting regularity and prevent constipation. Foods with insoluble fibers include whole wheat products such as that the bran is still in place. So many cereals and white flour has had the bran removed. Whole wheat flour still has the bran in place. Quinoa, brown rice, legumes, leafy greens like kale, almonds, walnuts, seeds, and fruits with edible skins like pear and apples all have insoluble fiber. A research study in differing African countries looked at stool samples of those indigenous people and found large amounts of insoluble fibers and husks from seeds. This coincided with the lowest rates of colon cancer in the world in places like the Republic of Congo, Bhutan, Nepal, the Republic of Gambia, Niger, Sudan, and Djibouti. These areas predominantly are supported by a vegetarian type foods. Not because that's what they want to eat, but their actual meat sources are very limited and costly. A study of Loma Linda University published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that a vegetarian diet results in nearly a third less greenhouse gas emissions than a diet with animal products. The study also found that the mortality rate for non-vegetarians is about 20% higher than that for vegetarians and semi-vegetarians. Loma Linda researchers used findings which have identified food systems as a significant contributor to global warming as well as data from the university's Adventist Health Study, a groundbreaking work that explores the nutritional practices of over 96,000 Seventh-day Adventists in North America. The study asserts a global shift toward plant-based diets would help protect people against food shortages by increasing food security and sustainability. Researchers Dr. Sabate and his colleagues in this study results stated also that people groups around the world through our history were forced either by necessity or choice to eat a plant-based diet, with large segments of the world's population actually thriving on plant-based foods. So food, if everyone became vegetarian by 2050, food-related emissions would drop by 60%. Worldwide, vegetarians by 2050 would lead to a global mortality reduction of up to 10%. You can eat all the total plant-based foods you want. That supports excellent health and also helps animals and protects the planet. One of the most effective things an individual can do to know their carbon footprint is to avoid all animal products. This goes beyond the problem of cow flatulence or cow gas. Vegetarians tend to have a better vision and have less macular degeneration. All that extra vitamin C is a consequence of collagen, leads to much better skin also. A plant-based diet is better for the planet as it requires much less energy and farmland to feed a vegetarian. Vegetarians have been found to enjoy longer and healthier lives when compared to meat eaters. So our last demo for today is going to be a dessert. It could actually be eaten for breakfast also, and it's called strawberry chia pudding.
Can you wash the Vitamix? Okay, so we're going to do our last recipe. You're gonna hear some water. My mom's cleaning the Vitamix really quick, and we'll get into it. So let me pull everything over, and I'll explain what we're going to do while we're waiting for that. One more. One more bowl. Okay, so we're going to make a strawberry pineapple chia pudding. And so the way that we're going to do that is we're going to start by making the chia pudding. Now this is something that is a process, so it will take, it's quick, and then you have to wait a little bit, and then you can enjoy it. And I did part of it ahead of time, so you guys don't have to wait to see all of it. But the first thing that we're going to do is make the actual chia pudding. Now, the way that you do that, oh, 2 more ingredients. Here we go. We don't want to miss anything. The first thing you do is you take plant-based milk. So we have specifically, I think this is hemp milk. You can use almond milk, you can use soy milk, you can use oat milk, whichever one you like. Of course, each of those plant milks are going to have different vitamins or minerals in them. They may have different amounts of protein, so you can be mindful of that. But we're going to dump that into the bowl. So that's our hemp milk. And then, and specifically, we have total, we're going to be using 3/4 cup of milk, but then I divide it. There's a first part and a second part. So we use the first half in this first part. Then we add to it 1/4 cup of chia seeds. And so I'm going to add those. Now again, these are white chia seeds. Typically people use black chia seeds, but I didn't have enough black chia seeds, so we're using white today. So dump those in. Make sure we get all of them, all of that good protein and fiber. So we're putting that in. And then also we're going to add in some dairy-free yogurt. There's a lot of different brands, there's a lot of different kinds. Some are more natural than others. You can even make your own by taking pure like coconut cream, like coconut from the can, and mixing it with a probiotic capsule. That's a way to make your own yogurt, but you can also just buy it from the store. So this is going to be a 1/2 cup of non-dairy yogurt. So I'm going to put all that in there. So you can see this is the Silk brand. It does have a pretty similar texture to yogurt, and this is the vanilla flavor. There's all sorts of different flavors you can get. And this one specifically has I think a soy base, but of course other brands have almond base or cashew base or coconut base, so it's up to you. So we're gonna put that, and then we put 1/2 tablespoon of maple syrup, and I did not prepare that ahead of time, so we're just gonna eyeball that. It's 1/2 tablespoon. And then 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm also gonna eyeball that. 1 teaspoon, so you can just pretend that that was exactly 1 teaspoon. And then we mix that up, okay? So we mix it. It might seem like it's wanting to separate, but it will come together soon. And so what you do with this is then you let it sit for an hour, and then it's ready. You can alternatively do it the night before and have it ready in your fridge for the next morning for breakfast, but that part does need to sit for about an hour. I do have some already prepared. I have that stand back. So you can see the already prepared, it's a lot thicker. Yeah, it's like a pudding. And so again, I used white chia, so it looks a bit more beige. If you use black chia, it's gonna stay black, which is also fine. But so we're gonna set that aside for a moment. We'll keep holding on to it. Now we're gonna do the second part of this chia pudding. So what we'll do is we're going to take the other 1/2 of our milk, and then we're going to take 1 cup of strawberries, lightly eyeballing that as well. And then we're going to use, actually it's supposed to be half a cup of strawberries, sorry, and half a cup of frozen pineapple. If I can open it. My hands are wet now, so it doesn't want to open. Okay. This is a tough bag. Okay. I'm going to we'll say that's half a cup. We're just guessing, and that's okay. But it is supposed to be half a cup of each, okay? Then you blend it up in the blender. Oh, I have to plug it in. That would be very helpful. It's okay. All right. Okay, so as you can see, this is kind of liquidy still, and this is because I used fresh strawberries and frozen pineapple, but if you use frozen strawberries, it'll be a lot thicker. You can also reduce the amount of plant milk, and that will also make it a lot thicker. I actually do like it thicker, so I'm just gonna add more pineapple because I feel like it. With recipes, you can adapt. It doesn't have to be exactly the same every time, and so that is a rule that I like to stick by. I will add things and take things away, and we'll see how it goes. While this is blending, I'm going to cut some strawberries. I think that's sufficient. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put it all together. I can get the coconut back. I had it. No, the desiccated.
I don't know where you put it.
We'll find it. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right, now to put it all together. So for assembly, we're going to take our strawberry pineapple smoothie. Again, this is very liquidy, but if you take the, remove the milk, or you add frozen strawberries, it's going to be a lot thicker and a lot easier to layer. And so then you can layer in your, ooh, see, it doesn't layer as well when it's thin, but that's okay. Nonetheless, you have your chia pudding in there, and then yeah, we'll put some more. And then we will put some fresh strawberries on top. They're sinking in because, again, it's a little too thin. But put the fresh strawberries. And then we'll take this. This is desiccated coconut. So it's basically just dry blended coconut. And we'll put a little bit of that on top. And so I do want to note that the desiccated coconut, this doesn't have any sugar on it. It's just the plain coconut. So it's natural. It's not going to negatively affect your blood sugar like something that has processed sugar on it. So that is something important to note. But that is your strawberry pineapple chia seed pudding.
And the one thing about desserts, when you're making these natural plant-based desserts, feel free to add more molasses. You know, it's really to taste. What any of the seasonings is to taste for you. Well, I think what we're going to do is we are not going to do the food demo for lentils because we're coming up to the end of our time. But I do want to mention one thing about lentils. Lentils now come in a can at Walmart, and I'm just like so blown away by this. They're even organic. I think we're $1.78 or something like this. So lentils actually are very quick to cook, but in the can makes it so easy. All you have to do is your onions, your seasonings with your carrots or potatoes, whatever you want to add, and then dump this in and you're ready to go. You can find any lentil soup recipe online or on any of the plant-based apps that are out there. So let's look at what we have and just kind of go over. Here is your full plate diet. Now that is really a lot of food there. You've got your salad here with your garbanzo beans and all your different cruciferous vegetables, your tahini, which has sesame seed dressing. You have your macaroni and cheese here with your plant-based cheese dressing from the cashews. You also can make a California macaroni and cheese by using onions and mushrooms and sliced tomatoes in your sauce if you like that. And then you have our wrap. And we went through 3 different ways you can put your wraps. You can use the vegetarian chicken, you can make your oat patty, you can use tofu, marinated tofu for your wrap. Very simple, easy to make for a full meal. You could put this in a plastic box and take it to work and you're all set for your noon meal. And then just the added benefit is your little dessert here of your strawberry pineapple chia pudding with the coconut on top. So thank you, Savannah, for doing that food demonstration. And I just want to close and thank you all for being here today. And thank you for joining us for our first in a series of health and lifestyle programs that will be running through the October of 2024 when we'll have a new schedule. But for those who have watched today and live in the Fresno area, we want to offer you a special luncheon just for you. And this luncheon will be private, and it will be an in-person lunch with food demonstrations. That will be December 3 at 12 o'clock. You must call to register, and you must have watched this video because we will be discussing some of the things that we have presented today. The phone number you will call will be 559-233-1171 to register for this special luncheon, December 3 at 12 o'clock. You can also email at office@fresnocentralsda.com. No charge for this program because it's a special thank you for you watching this today. Upcoming programs will be February 10 will be celebrating Cardiovascular Health Month, and it's Wear Red Day. We hope you'll join us for that in-person event. It will start at 11 o'clock, followed by a heart-healthy luncheon for those who attend. Again, we'd like you to register so we know how many are attending. That phone number again is 559-233-1171. Our next plant-based program will be March 10 at 12 o'clock online Pacific Standard Time, and our subject will be cardiac health, so you're not going to want to miss that. For those experiencing grief and loss, we have an upcoming program called Share Hope Grief Support. This will begin sometime the end of February through March, and the details will be coming soon. So please go to our website at www.fresnocentralsda.org for information on upcoming programs, or our Facebook page at Fresno Central Seventh-day Adventist Church. And thank you again for joining us.
Yes, and if you do not live in the Fresno area, but you live somewhere else, please reach out to a local Seventh-day Adventist Church coordinator. If you live in the Huntsville area, if you're a member of the Oakwood Latino Church, or you would like to be, feel free to contact the church. You can contact me, and we can organize something else similar to help you learn more about your health. Thank you, honey.